I'm curious what your experience has been like with what I would imagine an onslaught of questions about Taylor passing. And do you find that it's been frustrating or triggering or cathartic? Or, I mean, have you been doing any press ultimately promoting your music and there's this huge kind of elephant in the room that either is or isn't addressed? I mean, what's that experience been like?
It's been interesting because, I mean, I have been doing a little bit of press. You know, I had these 2 songs that I put out were slated to come out earlier in the year. And when Taylor died, I pushed it back, you know, obviously because, it just seemed like it would, I just didn't want to be like out promoting something, and obviously. So pushed it back. And then when I started putting the music out, it's sort of a delicate thing, for some areas I just said, I don't want to do any interviews, because I expected certain territories to be, I don't know, more uncomfortable with that than others. I didn't really do a lot of print press, and I, told, my publicists and to just that I would just prefer to avoid that topic entirely because, I mean, it's hard to talk about. Even still, it's hard to talk about because there's just you just have a lot of
raw.
It's raw, and there's a lot of there's just a lot of shit. It's like when anybody dies. It's just there's a lot of you just go through all these different phases of grieving and just how you feel about it, what you think about it. It's just sort of evolving all the time, but then, of course it comes up. The thing that's one of the weirdest, I mean, we're from Santa Barbara, dude. Like half the people we grew up with are dead. Like we've lived through a lot of people dying.
Disproportionate amount of people from our scene are
disproportionate, dead. But this one's very different, because of the whole public side of it. And watching, there's so much like internet sleuthing that people are doing, and especially right after he died, all these Twitter, private investigators that are, they absolutely know what happened and are sure of it, and it's all wrong. You know what I mean? That's wrong about everything, and that's been really strange to watch. And people,
have you found people have generally been respectful with the way they want you to talk about it, or has it been you found it being exploitive? No, I think people are pretty respectful, but I mean, there's this. It's made me reconsider everything I ever thought I knew about, Jim Morrison dying or fucking Randy Rhoads dying, any of those, kind of rock and roll tragedies. I understand people's fascination with it. Taylor is this big character, and he meant a lot to millions of people all over the world. So I'd like, on one hand, I get that fascination with it. But it's like, it's just it's like so much of what I've seen out there is so completely wrong. I mean, there's people out there saying shit like Dave killed Taylor by making him get the COVID vaccine. It's just shit like that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, fuck, you're going to turn it into that? Like, fuck you. You know, it's just this shit like, I mean, I try not to pay attention to any of that stuff because, like, who gives a fuck? It's just some Yahoo on Twitter or whatever. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It makes you angry. You know? I mean,
because that shit is disrespectful, if you ask me.
Very, very. I mean, but honestly, that's the outlier. I mean, I hadn't heard that. I mean, I've kind of been following it fairly closely. So, I mean, like you said, there's always going to be some fucking Yahoo saying whatever because everybody has a voice. Everybody on the phone has a voice now, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there was that Rolling Stone article that was, complete nonsense for the most part, that came out. So I guess, there's that, but most people that I've encountered have been respectful about it, or try to avoid it or whatever, it's
yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I was getting. I mean, do you find more people are kind of awkwardly not asking you about it and it's just this huge elephant in the room, or?
It probably will be when we ever get around to putting out another Foo Fighter record and go back into the promo, boogie woogie, and because I remember that when I joined Foo Fighters, was in '99. So it was a while after Kurt Cobain had died, but I would just watch interviewers like twist themselves in knots to ask Dave about it, but not ask, and
trying to shoehorn it in somehow.
You know what I mean? Yeah, So, I would think it will probably turn into that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. So, my father passed away in the spring, and it's been really interesting and strange to kind of experience the different times that grief kind of creep in on you. And it's usually not the most obvious times. Like, it wasn't at the memorial or during the funeral service or something. But, the other day I found one of his drafting pencils in a drawer, and I lost it, and, it made me think, you just played this tribute concert for Taylor, and there's hundreds of thousands of people in the audience, and then hundreds of thousands of people watching on TV worldwide, and like you're standing backstage. It would seem like that would be the obvious time for you to be like overcome with emotion, but does the nervousness and the enormity of the whole situation kind of put you like on autopilot? I mean, what was that feeling like when you first walked out and saw that crowd?
Well, when we very first walked out, I was like just trying to focus, remember how to play the songs. I tried to just focus more on that because we were backing up all these different people, and you don't want to be the guy that fucks up the guitar solo for Back in Black or whatever. So I was just trying to like be in that space. But when we were walking out, I looked up and I saw one of Taylor's best friends, Hans. You probably know Hans.
I know Hans. Yeah.
I saw him. It was still like we had a little area where guests were kind of up above the stage looking down, and I saw him and he was crying, and that like broke me up. I just had to like, oh man, just suck it back. I mean, yeah, it's you mentioned your dad passing. When I remember for a long time after my dad died, it's you're sad about it, but you almost like forget for a second, and something would happen, and I would have the instinct like, oh, I got to call my dad and talk to him about this, and then all of a sudden it comes back, and I remember that for years, having that feeling, or even like waking up in the morning and you just for a foggy second you forget that he's dead, and then oh fuck, that's right, he's dead, and that took I still kind of have that sometimes with my dad. I still think about it like a lot, and just in the short time since Taylor passed, and even like getting ready to do these shows, just being at our rehearsal studio, you just kind of, it's like you just expect him to walk in the room, or it's still like, that's the part that's really bizarre.
It's unbelievable.
It's just, like you just can't believe it, even it's true, it's reality. It just, I don't know when that sinks in for real.
Yeah. Was there one part of that show that really resonated with you, that really kind of drove home like why you were there?
Oh, certainly when Shane, his son, came out and played with us. I mean, probably more than any other. Yeah, that was heavy. I mean, he's such moment, a mini Taylor.
It's gonna. I mean, that's up there with one of those iconic moments, like JFK Jr. saluting the coffin or something. I mean, just an iconic pop culture moment.
Yeah, it was wild, and he just killed it, and so it was a it was like an uplifting moment. Yeah. That's probably the one that sticks out the most. But really, just the whole month getting ready for it. There's so many of little moments like that just drive it home.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned seeing Hans, and I found that like seeing other people grieving is a real trigger. Like I can kind of go along my day, okay, but then when you see someone else's grief, that just really drives it home.
Yeah. Or you forget for a second and you look at your Instagram account and you see a photo and you're like, because now there's like all these people posting like old Foo Fighter footage and old Foo Fighter photos of all these moments that you forgot ever happened, and it's like, it's sweet, but hard at the same time.
Bittersweet. Yeah.
Yeah.